الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلاة تخرجنا بها من أوحال الوهم وتودعنا ما أشكل حتى يفهم إنك تعلم ولا نعلم وأنت علام الغيوب. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's gathered us here tonight in order to raise the remembrance of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this night where many people are focused on other things, it's a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought our focus upon His beloved. And so this is a night of reflection, us coming together. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the Quran, He calls us to reflect upon where we are and where we're going. And one of the most profound surahs of the Quran is Surah Yusuf. And at the beginning of Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ بِمَا أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ وَإِن كُنْتَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ لَمِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. نَحْنُ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we, in all our support, we are there for you. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the royal we, us, is to be supportive. In many, it has different usages. For example, here's Hasanat here, and I say to him, Hasanat, I'm with you. It's different to saying to Hasanat, oh Hasanat, we're with you. You feel there's more support there. You feel encouraged. You feel it's not just one person behind you, but it's a whole team, a community. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ, we, in all our force, all our support, all our comfort, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, we relate to you, upon you, أحسن القصص, the best of stories. One of the most profound things that people take in their life are stories. If we think about it, stories are what give us meaning to our life. Obviously one of the most powerful and one of the most dominant mediums we have is the film industry. The film industry plays upon story to give people some sort of sense and some sort of understanding of what's going on in their life. It gives them meaning. Especially the story of the hero, the hero's adventure, the hero's journey. As Joseph Campbell, he went through the mythology of all these different characters, these heroes, and he looked at certain lines of the story of how the hero starts and how the hero finishes. And he took this mainly from Carl Jung's work in psychology, but he saw throughout all history that the hero follows this path. And we see it even in the film industry, films like Star Wars and Matrix. You see there's this common theme going through the whole story to bring it back, that creates such an impact and a profound sense of meaning for people, especially for men going on their journey to manhood. It was very much used in classical societies and cultures to give them a sense of where they're going in life. It's like mentorship. And this is what the story holds. So, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was going through this as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, throughout the Quran, throughout the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life, in his struggle, in his mission, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming to comfort him through there. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for him. And how does he do this? He does this through stories of the prophets before him, to show that this is a path that not only you are travelling, but that all those who I've given this message to before have taken on as well. And life, what is life? Life is a series of struggles and us trying to overcome those struggles, of challenges, taking us out of our comfort zone and putting us in the sphere of challenges so that we can become more wholesome. If we think about every single one of us, within us, we have a seed within us for potential. And what does the seed do? The seed's in the ground, it's covered, and it slowly, as some sense of light it senses, by its intuition, a light that it's called into, it slowly grows and grows and grows until it breaks out. But that's a challenge. That's something very, very difficult. And that's the story of our life. He says, نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن. Of this revelation that we bring to you, O Messenger of Allah, هذا القرآن, this recitation, this magnificent recitation that's here to guide you. وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. Even if you had no knowledge of it beforehand, we have brought you this revelation to guide you. And Surah Yusuf is probably one of the most profound stories in the Quran. Why? Because the whole story, unlike the other prophets, you see that their stories are spread out throughout the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly is coming back and revisiting those stories. With Surah Yusuf, it's a whole story in one. And Surah Yusuf is, if we look at it, there's a glorious beginning and a glorious end, and between it, all these events, these struggles. If you imagine Surah Yusuf's story as a timeline against the wall, if you can imagine that, and there's the beginning. What's the beginning of Surah Yusuf, you'd say? Anyone? What's the beginning of the story? It all starts with a dream. There's the dream. This magnificent dream in that his brothers and his mother and his father are prostrating to him out of respect and veneration for him and honouring him. And then at the end of the story, we have obviously the the manifestation of that dream in reality. But between all of it, you think, subhanAllah, there's this dream, and it's as if he's going to have a glorious life. And then what happens? His brothers beat him up. Then he's thrown down a well. Then he's sold into slavery. Then he gets accused by the wife of Potiphar, Aziz. That he's committed some wrong. Then thrown into prison. His name ruined. Then he helps people out, but he asks him to mention him in front of the king, and then he has to spend another 6 or 7 years in prison. Now you're thinking, what's going on? You know, as you go through each event, you're thinking, well, this story seems a bit wrong. It was glorious here, and it said it's going to be glorious at the end. All these events don't seem very glorious to me. But when you can span out, you know, and you see that timeline on the wall, if you imagine it, you see all the events, you think, no, don't worry, that has to happen for that to happen, to that to happen, that happen, for that glory to happen. And that's really summarises our life. We have a glorious beginning. What's that? Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted us Islam and a guidance that we have to constantly grow in and learn in our life experience. What's Allah require of us in this situation? How do I overcome this struggle? It keeps going and going and going until the ending. The ending is something glorious. What is that? That we die upon Islam. That's the greatest gift we can have, that we die upon this faith. Because that's eternal happiness after that. But all those events that are happening between, they're all struggles in order to get there. And when we see that, we see it in that context, then we realise, what's our responsibility? We just have to keep going along and asking Allah, Ihdina siratan mustaqim, guide us to the straight path in all my affairs. And when you're making mistakes, or things are going a bit pear-shaped and struggle, they're not mistakes in reality. They're just, if you think of an aeroplane that's flying, aeroplanes are constantly going off course. And then it's obviously the air control on the ground that's telling you off target, and so you just go. So as we are travelling, we're making mistakes, but they're just a means to try to bring us back on the straight to go ahead. Like Thomas Edison, when he was the light bulb, discovering the right, I don't know much about electricity, but is it filters or something he was using? The filaments. He was going through thousands of filaments, and every time he was getting it wrong, someone said to him, they asked him, "Are you getting frustrated? You keep getting it wrong." No, because each filament that I get wrong, it means it's a step closer to the one that I'm actually going to discover is the right one. And so that's the reality of life. And if we look through Surah Yusuf, it encapsulates this hero's journey of the Prophet ﷺ and the prophets before them, of all the stages we have to go in life. Number one, what's this? And we're going to test you on this tonight. Okay, so we're going to try to remember this, even me myself. The first one the ordinary world before us. Sayyidina Yusuf, if you think about it, he was just, his family were on the land in Palestine, shepherd, very simple life. You think, you know, nothing out of the ordinary, apart from obviously they were from a legacy of prophets. And he's in his comfort zone, especially because his father is taking care of him completely. He's sheltering him from his other brothers even. And he zealously protects his son. And you can see that Yusuf and his brother, Benjamin, there's only 2 of them, while all his other brothers, the 10 other brothers, they are strong in their pack and they feel slightly isolated from them and intimidated by them. This is the beginning of the hero's journey, this ordinary world around you. Like the Prophet ﷺ, raised in Mecca. No one thought anything of Mecca. They didn't, the powers that be at that time, they didn't think of it as had any relevance whatsoever. And so we have, number 1 stage, the ordinary world. Stage 2, and you can use these with any films or any stories that you remember. There was Luke Skywalker in Tatooine, this desert land. He was just a farmer again, if you think about it. He was just on the land. He was producing the crops on the land. Nothing significant, it seems. Then what? Number 2, the next stage in the path, and this is all of us. We seem to have this ordinary Sheffield, this bog standard factory town. Nothing, black soot. What's going to come out of Sheffield? Then the call to adventure. The next stage, the call to adventure. What's this? In Surah Yusuf's story, what's the call to adventure? It's the dream. It's the dream that comes to him, that something's going to happen. For the Prophet ﷺ, it's the revelation. Or even before that, it's the angels visiting the Prophet ﷺ, these mysterious figures. In Star Wars, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. So if you don't know anything about Star Wars, please forgive me. This is stage 2, which is the calling. So we've got, number 1 was what? The ordinary world, which we call the prologue, the beginning. Seems very ordinary. Then number 2 is the what? The call to adventure. Number 3, the refusal of the call. Many in the stories of heroes, they have this time when they feel a sort of trepidation, a fear, a hesitancy. They have something called to them and they sort of, is it really that? And they sort of dismiss it, thinking maybe it was nothing. This is where the Prophet ﷺ, what was it that came to me? And then Allah, Ya ayyuhal muddathir, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, oh you covered in your cloak, rise. Just to give him reassurance that this is a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was where Luke Skywalker, he thought, you know, I can't go and travel. And then he goes back and what's he find out? He finds out that his own uncle and aunt have been killed by the stormtroopers. I'm assuming you know what I'm talking about. This is the refusal of the call. And now for us, in our life, is Allah gives us a sign where we're supposed to go. And everyone around us is telling us, no, you're supposed to be a doctor. No, you're going to be a dentist. And you just don't have that calling. And there's a yearning for you to achieve something far greater. And when you turn away from that calling, Allah basically sends trial upon trial to push you there. And as long as you ignore it, we suffer. But as long as we feel that calling, we know exactly, I know where my skills lie. I know Allah's given me signs of where my talent lies. Everyone around me is telling me something else. I know where that calling lies. So where is Allah directing to me in my life in Sheffield? So we've had ordinary journey. Number 2, call to adventure. Number 3, the possible refusal of the call in many stories. This is the problems of Sayyidina Yusuf. Sayyidina Yusuf is obviously, he's taken by his brothers, then he's thrown down the well. It seems like his mission's completely amiss. He's in the well, where's he going to go? But then, as narration says, Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam visits him. This is now part 4, meeting the mentor. This is where the guide, this is where in our life, someone who we look up to. an older person that's been through life experience to help us and guide us, which is so important for us, especially for males in society, that mentor that can show them that they can achieve something and believes in them. So someone comes into his life and gives him confidence. Number 5, crossing the threshold. I.e. now he's leaving his home. So Sidna Yusuf, he's left his homeland. Where's he gone now? Where does he go? He goes to Egypt. So now you're in unfamiliar territory. This is in, for example, stories like Wizard of Oz. Where does she go? It's Oz, isn't it? No, it's not. That's another story, Narnia. Okay, we've all got our favourites. Where, for example, what's the White Rabbit story? Oh, my goodness me. Alice in Wonderland. She escapes. This is where we go into another world from outside our ordinary world to make sense of what's going on. So the Prophet ﷺ on the Isra and Mi'raj, he's going to make sense of what's going on, because it seems like he's hit a loggerhead, the Prophet ﷺ. His mission seems like it's falling away because his people are refusing him. And he goes to Taif and he's rejected again. So Allah sends him to the metaphysical world to give him clarity of where he is going and where this all is, and puts the picture into place for him. And so this is crossing the threshold. Part 6 is the tests and the allies and the enemies that come into his story. So he has supporters, but he also has enemies. He's now completely out of his comfort zone, and tests are thrown at him. But what he finds, and this is what's interesting in life, is Allah sends you friends from the most unlikeliest of places. Sometimes you think your family are going to be there for you, and they completely reject you. And people come out who you didn't even look at and consider, and they come and support you. This is the Muhajirun and the Ansar. The Prophet ﷺ leaves, comes from the Isra and Mi'raj, he goes to Medina. Remember, the Arabs in their time, they thought if your family weren't behind you, then no one's behind you. This is where Shu'b al-Mughira, I think it was, who comes, these people are not going to support you. At Hudaybiyah, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when it comes to crunch, these people are not going to support you. I don't see anyone amongst them that's from your tribe. And the believers became enraged. They said, how can we not support the Messenger of Allah? But they were working on a completely different... You see, when Allah wants you to break you from the norm, he breaks the cultural norms. This is why I love, you say, if you want to understand Arab culture, then just study Mir-Puri culture. It's there. All of it's fascinating, honestly. Okay? Huh? Honestly, you study Mir-Puri culture. Why? Because it's traditional culture. It's where the family and the tribe are there. But everything's broken when Allah wants you to go on your path to protect your potential. And it's not necessarily the people close to you that are going to support you. This is where it takes courage. This is where it takes believing within yourself that there's something greater that I need to aspire for. And then he goes, for number 7, approach to the inmost cave, where he faces doubts and fears that first surfaced before. This is the real trial where he's going to stand up before his greatest enemy. This is like the Battle of Badr, where the Prophet ﷺ, as 313 have to face the army of 1,000. This is... Let me see. This is where when Sidna Yusuf is in the jail, it looks completely over for him. And then from there, who's his supporters there? The 2 inmates, the most unlikely of supporters. And then he eventually, one of them leaves and reminds the king of someone who can interpret his dream. So when you help people, you don't know where that support's going to come. You might have helped someone and thought it completely insignificant. Later on, years later, that person comes to stand by your side. Number 8, the ordeal, where you're meeting the deadly foe and the person has to draw upon his skills. This is where he has to face the women again. Now, the women actually support him here. Remember, the women initially stood against him and threw him into the jail. Now he faces up and he addresses this issue. This is a very important thing in life. Is that for us to move on, we have to have the courage to stand before people and rectify wrongs. I'm not going to deal with that. it just builds and builds and builds and builds. Sidna Yusuf, very important lesson from Sidna Yusuf's life. He says, I will not leave until this wrong is adjusted. This wrong is addressed. And then we have the reward, where he's transformed into a completely different position. We see Sidna Yusuf alayhi salam, what happens to him? He becomes, from a jail, from being one of the governors in the land, who's one of the most respected advisors to the king of Egypt at the time. Completely unforeseen. Number 10, the road back. Now he's in a position of power. What happens? His past comes back to him. What's his past coming back to him now? His brothers coming back. Now, when you're in a position, now you can address. The Prophet ﷺ, he couldn't address Mecca, the Quraysh, until he was in a position of authority. Now he comes back to them. And now we can address issues. And that's what's really interesting is he's in a position of authority. And so then he forgives. When does Sidna Yusuf, and when does the Prophet ﷺ forgive his people? When he's in a position where they're humbled. Because when people do wrong, they have to understand that they've done wrong. It's not just I forgive him, and he just carries on and doing all his wrong. No, it's where he's in a position of authority now in the land. And the Prophet ﷺ, Sidna Yusuf says, now that you've recognized your wrong, and you've seen what you've done, it says, "La tathrib alaykum al-yawm." There's no blame on you now in this situation. And so this is how we have to be very cautious about this in our life with people that really oppress us, is that we have healthy boundaries between them. And once they're humbled and they realise what they've done wrong, then it's easy to, then we're open to forgiveness. If they keep doing wrong, we don't just forgive them. They have to realise what they've done. It's very, very important that people realise this in the path to forgiveness. And so 10, we said the road back. 11, resurrection. The story of resurrection. He faces death. Sidna Yusuf, what does he say after all of this? He says, رَبِّ قَدْ آتَيْتَنِي مِنَ الْمُلْكِ وَمِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. You have given me the kingdom, and you gave me this gift of being able to interpret some of the dreams. فَاطِرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, the creator, that brought into from nothing, the heavens and the earth. أَنْتَ وَلِيِّي فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. You covered my back in this life and the next. That's what a wali is. A wali is someone who stands behind you and is supporting you. And that can be the person being supported or the supporter. You covered my back in this life and the next. You're there for me, supporting me. تَوَفَّنِي مُسْلِمًا. Take me as a believer. وَأَلْحِقَنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ. And let me be joined in the ranks of the righteous. This is one of the ultimate du'as in the Quran. Tawaffani Musliman, take my soul as a believer, wa alhiqani bis salihin, and let me. That's the resurrection on the day of Yom Qiyamah, that we see the fruits of all these efforts, this struggle, and that we be in the company of the most righteous. The primary one of them being Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then returner with elixir. Then he comes back with full change and full success and proof of the journey, and leaves his legacy for people to see what he achieved, and so they're inspired by what he did. That's the end of the journey. So Sidna Yusuf passed, he's left that legacy. The Prophet ﷺ has passed away, but he's left all this legacy. So this is the story of the hero's journey, which has 12 steps to it, and they call it a chiasm. If I pronounce that correctly in English. A chiasm is basically a loop. The beginning of the story ends, and the second part joins. So if you think 12 parts, 1 joins with 12, 2 joins with 11, 3 joins with 10, and it goes back like that till it hits the middle. Let's look at it. 12 stages, 12 surah in the Quran, 12 brothers. We've got 12 stages of the hero's journey. The ordinary world. Notice at the end we have the prologue, and at the end we have the epilogue, the ending. It comes back from the beginning to the end. Sidna Yusuf is reunited. We have the call to the adventure, and then we have the resurrection, the accomplishment of the dream. So we had the dream in the second way. 11, we have the accomplishment of all the dream, where his brothers and his family all come together. Then we have the refusal of the call, i.e. he's stuck on the path, the problem that Yusuf alayhi salam has. And then we have the road back to that journey. So there was the problem on the journey, and now the path back. That's 3. to 10. Then we have the meeting with the mentor at 4, where he's met with someone who takes him on the journey. And then we have the reward where he's transformed. And so the mentor transforms him, and then he takes the fruit of that reward later on in his life. And then we have the crossing of the threshold, 5, and then we have the ordeal. So there's meeting the greatest enemy, and there's the crossing of the threshold when he goes on to his challenges. And so you have first the small journey, the small ordeal when you go into the new world, and then you have to face the big baddie at the end. Then you have 6 and 7 that join, if I've got this right. You've got the test, the allies and the enemies, and then you have the approach to the inmost cave, where you have to basically go and face that dark side in the journey. And so they all link, these 12 back and forth. We've got the 12 sauna, we've got the 12 stages of the hero's journey, we've got this chiasm of them linking back and forth, and we have the 12 brothers as well. And what's amazing about this is that this was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ at one time. And we see all these links that's coming back. What's the benefits of all this? To know that every single bit in your life has significance. Have you ever noticed in your life that basically things keep reoccurring? That you keep falling into the same traps, or you keep achieving the same things. This is because Allah is calling you to something in your life, and we just have to wake up to it. One of the most profound ways to do that is dreams. In Jungism, if I pronounce that correctly, in Carl Jung's, he focuses heavily in psychology on dreams. He says your dreams, do you have those dreams that keep reoccurring throughout your life, the same thing? He said, that's Allah waking you up to something. Mine is I'm always falling somewhere. Or I'm in a car and I can't find the brakes. I've started and I can't find the brakes. I don't know what that means yet still. But there's a wisdom why Allah repeats things outwardly in the external world in front of you, and inwardly in your dreams and ideas and notions, those deja vus. Allah's calling you to something. And it's just for us to take the courage to actually embark upon that journey, the hero's journey. And the most ultimate example is through the prophets, and the greatest of them being the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to take his example and realize, look what he achieved from the smallest, that seems so insignificant, this small town of Mecca to the people, in this small house where Sayyidah Amina gave birth, this woman that lost her husband, and this huge light that just shone. This is the beginning of the dream, the signs. And then his mission, within even his lifetime, he seems taking over the whole Arab Peninsula. And the people that are going to carry his legacy, spreading out, seeing the Persian, him prophesizing, this Persian empire is going to completely fall. That was over thousands of years old. The Persian empire, no one predicted this was possible, especially at the hands of these Arabs that no one saw that they were coming. And so this is the story. Don't think yourself insignificant, young Pakistani living in Sheffield. Don't think you're insignificant. I even say now, we've got brothers from Syria that have come. There's a journey. And I always think, why is Allah sending all these Syrians throughout the whole world? And I think maybe it's like, what happened to Ahlul Bayt? Why was the Ahlul Bayt persecuted? And I reflect on the life of the Ahlul Bayt. I think the wisdom that Allah basically, the persecution happened to Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet ﷺ, was so that all of us could have a share of them. They weren't supposed to be concentrated in the Arab Peninsula. They were supposed to spread out throughout the whole Muslim world to be able to give us a share of their blessing. And likewise, who knows what's got in store for these Syrians? Because Allah, the Prophet ﷺ, the righteous, they say that the Abdal come from Sham. The most righteous come from Sham. We don't know what these Syrians are bringing with them. They're running from this travesty, but we have no idea. We think we're giving to them. You don't know what they're going to be giving to us. So we don't know. The story's still not ended. And so, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we enable to finish our story. Not just give up. Well, this story's not working. No, we keep persevering, keep reading on. Because who's the author? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we all fulfill our potential. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He give us courage to stand up to the struggles in our lives. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He give us a determination and clarity of where we need to go in our lives. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He make us righteous, noble servants of Him, not because we're deserving, but He deserves righteous and noble servants that truly personify His religion. The legacy of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ask Allah we be people who are upon the legacy of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It makes it that you give us clarity so that it seems, so it's relevant for us in our lives. You bring us people and mentors and spiritual guides that can give us clarity of how to bring this legacy into our lives and change our life for the better and change the life for all of those around us for the better as well. And that's not difficult for you, Allah, because there's a story for us all and there's an ending. Allah make that ending great for us. And may you take our souls as Muslims and be joined with the righteous in the next life. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.